Hello, everyone. Welcome to the lobby. That was a great intro. Welcome to the lobby. I'm Peter Brown, not Danny O'Dwyer. He's in Ireland this week, but the lobby continues. It's GameSpot's weekly video game chat show at 2 p.m. Pacific. You can check it out at GameSpot or Twitch TV/GameSpot and on iTunes as a podcast. And I encourage you to do so because it works very well in that format. Today, we were talking about The Division, the cancellation of Fable Legends, and Tim Sweeney from Epic talked a little smack about Microsoft. But we're going to get things started. I'm joined by Rob Handlery and
Hi.
Scott Butterworth.
Hello.
Hello, boys. You've played a lot of The Division lately, right?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
I think Rob's played a little more than me, but yeah, it's been since yesterday morning. It's just been like Division time, go. So yes.
Yeah. Unlike most games, we did not get this early.
No.
So you guys are playing like the real deal, retail servers at launch.
Yeah, correct.
How has that been so far? I know some games like Street Fighter had some problems at launch with their servers, but The Division seems to be going pretty well.
Yeah, I mean nothing compared to the problem Street Fighter had for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you hear like issues like a little bit. Like for me, like I've been fine. I've been completely fine as far as joining up and playing with other people.
Same.
Like a breeze. But you know, once in a while, like I played with Eric Tay yesterday for a very long marathon.
Which you can check out on videogames.com.
That's right. He unfortunately had a couple crashes, no big deal. And then I saw on Reddit this morning there was an issue. I don't know if it was just for PC, but it was a photo of this huge line for like one of the first missions, and no one was able to like basically hold F.
Oh yeah, so the game starts, everyone has to go to the same shared safe room, and in that room there is one laptop that you have to like walk up to and hit a button prompt to initiate a certain mission. So you have a room full of like actual live human players who all need to use the same laptop, and apparently rooms have been so populated that people can't physically move their character to the laptop to engage the prompt.
That sounds ridiculous.
It's literally a line. It's the funniest image. It's like 24 people just in a line. Like there's one laptop. It's so funny that everyone would like even line up to do that.
So thankfully, I think Rob and I both avoided that problem, and we haven't seen anything that stupid since then.
Right.
There have been other smaller issues, but that's like just kind of a funny situation.
But you guys have gotten into the game and played it a bunch, so I'm really curious. I'm assuming you both had some experience with the beta. How have things changed since then? It was only a couple weeks ago, but now we have the whole game. Like, what's new? Do things feel any different?
The only concerns I had were like just quantity all around, like more NPCs, more AI to battle in the dark zone. All of that, for the most part, has been fixed. If not surprising, how alive this huge New York City is. Like for me, like as a recap of how I feel, I'm like having a really great time with this game.
I mean, I haven't necessarily been just utterly blown away by the world, but certainly there's a lot more going on and it feels more alive than it did in the betas. I definitely agree with that. It's really cool to be wandering around and you'll hear somebody say something like nearby. Like, where did that come from? And you'll look up and you'll see people are actually like in the buildings that you're walking underneath, which is kind of a cool touch. You'll notice things like that as you wander around. And I haven't seen too many like reused assets or anything. They did a pretty good job of making streets feel kind of unique. So far, everything I've seen has just been, exactly what you expect. It's an urban environment in ruin, and there are cars strewn about. But within that context, they've done a pretty good job of making the environments feel diverse and like you're saying, a little more alive.
So I'm curious because this is a sort of a dark story. The city is under this horrible disease. Like the society itself has sort of changed as a result. Rob, you were telling me about some really dark stuff that is in this game, and I wonder if you could share some of that.
Yeah. So many elements of just like you take a step back and you go, wow, this is like they're not holding anything back and telling this really dark story, which if no one really knows. It's basically Black Friday terrorists have devised a successful form of smallpox embedded in all the paper currency in New York City, and everyone's got smallpox and everyone's dying. So you're constantly just walking around the city, just body bags. Or like one mission's a huge incinerator where they're just throwing bodies into a pit. It's like dark.
There's like literally a waterfall of bodies in bags just like pouring into a pit of fire. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and with that in mind, it is a very grounded story in that, it's not too far in the future. It's like, this could happen, right? It's a Tom Clancy thriller. This could happen, and you're constantly reminded of like, you got these factions. Some people want to just basically burn everything or some people want to take advantage of this uprising and go rogue and take on the government. But yeah, there are these they have collectibles with little cinematics. One of them being like this scene where it's a girl on a cell phone. So you get like a cell phone video, and she's in a room, and there are these guys called the cleaners, and they come in and they got flamethrowers and they just torch everything. And she's hiding from them, and she's in like a market, so she's looking through cracks, and you think she's okay, and then a gust of snow and wind goes right past the camera, meaning there's someone behind her, and she opens up, and a flamethrower guy is there looking at her. Almost reminds me of Pyro from like Team Fortress, where he's like looking at her and cocks his head just because he has a flamethrower. He's really dark. And then he kills her, and she's screaming. And then you hear audio of her screaming and being burned alive. And that type of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah, most of that kind of content comes from like the collectibles. The story is clearly not the focus of the Division. It's you're not getting a cutscene every couple steps or anything like that. This is not a Hideo Kojima game. But if you're looking for collectibles, you can absolutely find like cell phone videos or audio recordings, things like that. And those tend to be both the darkest and do the most to kind of flesh out the world. I mean, there's another one that you found that I also found pretty early on of like it's a bunch of security camera footage of two guys running from a bunch of looters, and it's like pretty harrowing watching them like trip over themselves, and of course they like run into a gate and can't get past and they get caught and just like basically beaten to death, and tastefully cuts away before it shows any real gore or anything, but it's obviously implied that they're being brutally murdered, yay, and like it's pretty unflinching. But at the same time, there are moments where you kind of have to ignore the world that this game is set in a weird way. Like, I mean, the most basic, most obvious thing you can point to is the fact that it just takes a long time to kill anybody. Dudes in hoodies and jackets can withstand like 3 or 4 headshots before they die.
Bulletproof hoodies then.
Yeah, apparently. And I mean, like, that's a widely known thing. And, people who like to defend the game will always point out that, it's an RPG, not a shooter. But it's still just thematically is odd to be shooting a human and then watch them just like completely shrug off bullets and like barely even react and stuff like that. And I also have a bit of a hard time getting past the fact that, you're this sort of peacekeeping unit and your job is to kind of clean up and restore order in the city. But literally the only way you do that is just like wandering around killing people. Like you will just see looters in the street who like are not engaging you, who are not threatening, but because they're that particular character model, that they are like the looter enemy class, and that as soon as they notice you, they're going to shoot you. So even if they haven't done anything, your job as a gamer is like, well, I gotta kill them because if I don't, they're gonna shoot me. And so it's this weird thematic disconnect of like you kind of have to ignore the world that you're in to make it all make sense.
That's a beautiful segue into a question from Sir Plantis in the chat. Why don't people slip over in the snow?
They're so good at it. I mean, so the agents they're embedded in like they're active in New York because they were living in New York. So they're seasoned pros. They know what they're doing.
They know how to have that like gingerly walk over the ice. Yeah.
Full step. Don't shuffle.
My trendy mountain boots are doing just fine.
And collect boots. So many great game for boots.
Just really. To mention one thing though is I agree with you. Like you do see these looters, and yes, if you don't engage, they will. I'm sorry, if you just approach them, they're going to engage you. However, on the flip side, you'll turn a corner and you'll see a looter hovering over a distressed, civilian who's standing there. And this happens a couple times, but it's a really interesting thing where he's got a bat and he's saying like, "You're worthless. Like, what are you gonna do about it?" If you don't kill him before he basically takes this woman down, beats her, and if you don't even engage, he's just gonna continually beat her dead body. It's like you're witnessing this, and I think I've had that happen like 3 or 4 times, and I've only been able to shoot him like twice before he kills her. It's like there is still like hero element of you have a good heart, and you're going around and you're trying to prevent the wrongdoings. But it's just like really, again, like these dark scenarios that make you take a step back and kind of think like this is kind of surreal, but like surprisingly real. Like, I don't know, like riders in this state of apocalypse, like this is what would happen. And I like that idea of being reminded of like how awful humanity can kind of unfold in these scenarios. I don't know. It's just
I think the game actually it really goes out of its way to sort of justify your actions whenever it can. Yeah. But it still feels weird that you're just a total Judge Dredd type, like judge, jury, executioner, like anyone you see, like death sentence, like you're behaving badly, death. It's just like, okay. It would have been nice if there had been a little more nuance. But I agree. It's not, I don't feel like, you know, a horrible human by playing this game or anything like that.
Right,
It's
right.
just like there are certain moments where the themes kind of fall apart or come into conflict with the way that the game actually plays.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's just something I've noticed as I've been playing.
Yeah, and we've got your early impressions up on the site right now.
Yeah. I mean, we always like to just throw up a page to let people know, like, no, we're reviewing the game. But this is why we don't have a review the day the game goes up, because we often do. So yeah, people can go find my early impressions. They can watch the live stream that Rob and Eric recorded yesterday. That's all up there. So plenty of stuff for people to check out, even if we don't have a scored review, and get a good sense of like what to expect from the game.
All right, well, maybe we'll find out more later this week.
There's so much more to talk about too. It's like all the perks and the cover system. Like you could easily talk about this game for an entire hour. So
And yeah, we did the live stream yesterday, but having the game before its release, you know, the Dark Zone, like that's still up in the air. We did toward the end of the stream get in there, and Eric Tay did backstab me a few times just to kind of show what maybe the potential roguelife is, but there weren't really many people playing, so it's hard to tell what that is even going to be about.
for the people who haven't been playing, the Dark Zones are like the PvP areas
Right.
within the world that you like consciously enter, and then it becomes this kind of free for all. You can sort of join it with people or not, or you can betray them or take loot, or it's this whole crazy thing. It seems like maybe one of the most interesting mechanical aspects of the game, but as Rob pointed out, it requires a bit of a higher level, so we'll get there. We haven't
Right.
had a chance to really explore it yet.
Okay, one last question before we go out. Jeffrey Sparks wants to know, are collectibles from the Dark Zone actually worth it, or just reskins or different perks? I don't know what he's talking about, because I still haven't played The Division, but...
It's hard to tell. The beta, like pushing aside the beta, I would imagine the idea of or the incentive to go into Dark Zone is to get higher valued loot. Yeah. At the moment, different from the beta, was like you do missions, you do side missions. The payoff as far as loot goes is all right. It's like substantial, but in my opinion, the idea of the Dark Zone is to go for those higher, those purple weapons, just the better stuff. At the moment, it's hard to tell, but yeah, I mean,
It seems like it would kind of have to be. I mean, I feel like that's almost part of the design of the Dark Zone. But again, we haven't actually spent that much time in the now finished retail version of the Dark Zone. Most of our experience was in the betas, and I feel like it was worthwhile in the betas. I found the best stuff that I came across was all in the Dark Zone. So I would assume that will be true in the retail version as well, but hard to confirm.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's an obvious added challenge in just getting stuff out of the Dark Zone. So it would only make sense for the developers to incentivize that gameplay in some way.
Yeah.
So it would be kind of insane if those items weren't better, but we'll see.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Scott. Rob, talking about The Division. We will be playing more of The Division before our review goes live later this week. Have you been playing? Are you waiting in line to press F on that laptop? Let us know in the comments below. All right, Scott, we're going to swap you out for Ty Root, who's coming in. And on his way in, Rob, I want to talk to you about Uncharted 4.
Yeah, gladly.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Scott.
See ya.
So Uncharted 4 was recently delayed again. It's now coming out in May, but there was a multiplayer beta that you played a bunch of. For people who don't know, can you give us just sort of a broad overview of how multiplayer works in Uncharted 4?
Sure. Well, as far as what they showed in the open beta, and there was a previous beta that was only available for people who, I believe, if you had the Uncharted collection, you were able to play for a few days. And this is basically that carried over plus a mission a map, and I believe maybe a few more abilities. But regardless, what they showed off was like 5v5, just team deathmatch on 3 maps. And essentially, it's, deathmatch with new features compared to... Hey, Ty, how you doing?
How are you, Rob?
Great. New features that I looked up on compared to Uncharted 3 were like an in-game store. So you could do things... I kill a guy, I down a guy, I get money. And then in-game, I can basically pull up a store menu and buy a power-up weapon, a RPG, or something called a Mystic, which is like a anything
Like
from...
a totem or something.
Exactly,
right?
a totem that basically you throw down and it's got like splash damage and it will just kill anyone in the vicinity. But I mean, it's super fun. I don't have like too much to say about it.
You just said a lot, though.
Yeah, I mean, they added a lot of cool things. It's a fun game, right? Like things they also added were like if I don't necessarily have to kill a guy, like I'll down him, and you're down, and it's pretty silly to see basically like bunch of people like crawling around, and you're now trying to basically kick them to get the confirmed kill. So many times you'll see like a bunch of people like crawling around, and everyone's just like swinging and missing, or like trying to like kick, and like just it looks ridiculous. And then I saw today, I didn't see the option, but you could like down someone, and then you could like pull out your camera and do a selfie. Like,
Of course.
they're having fun with this game, and that's pretty apparent. Or like another one was like you can now do the lasso like grapple. And in the beta, they had it's called like Uncharted TV, and there's this clip of like a dozen people who have grappled onto one attachment and are doing like a merry-go-round, like swing.
Just for fun.
Just for fun. Just swinging around. So like my takeaway is like it's a super fun multiplayer experience that's got some silly aspects to it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ty Root, our very own Nathan Drake.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you? I have nothing to add to that conversation.
So, boys, we're going to chat a little bit about Fable Legends. Yesterday, it was announced that the game has been canceled after 4 years of development, and Microsoft is looking into possibly closing Lionhead Studios. In the UK, they can't just shutter a company. They actually have to take 30 days to see if it's a reasonable decision. But for all intents and purposes, it seems like Fable Legends is definitely gone. Maybe the series is done, and probably Lionhead Studios as well. I'm very curious about how you guys feel about this game. Ty, I know you played a lot of Fable, at least 1 through 3. How do you feel about them sort of taking a game like that people know and has sort of defined what it is, and turning it into this odd like multiplayer free-to-play game? Do you think they're risking the series by doing that? I mean, it seems to have ended up that way.
I think Fable 3 rubbed so many people the wrong way
Yeah.
that I thought this game was doomed from the start. I mean, I don't know if you guys played 3, but it was probably the lowest point in that series.
Okay.
And I think maybe they were trying to do something different with doing this whole like free-to-play 4-player co-op thing. I mean, it's weird because wasn't the beta supposed to be like next month or something?
The beta
Oh,
has
really?
been going.
It's been going,
and They're
okay.
going to keep it open until April.
Okay, got
So,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I either outgrew Fable games or I just kind of lost interest after 3. I think 2 was the pinnacle of that series. I love 2. I think they did so many unique changes from the first one. I loved my dog. I still have dreams where I hear like you're brewing beer and you just hear this guy go, "The perfect pint," like 1,500 times.
You have
like,
dreams where that is just repeated.
that's
ad
just
nauseam?
repeated nonstop. Me just brewing beer and that guy just telling me how great of a job I did. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know much about Fable Legends. I've obviously seen gameplay. I know it was announced, 3 years ago, and I kind of haven't heard anything since. I just don't think the buzz was there.
Yeah.
It's kind of fitting, like I said, that they had that, Molyneux's Twitter account was hacked, 2 weeks ago, saying
Right,
that he
said he was
retired.
quitting, yeah.
So I think this is kind of oddly funny.
If it's still technically an open beta, doesn't mean the project's canned.
Oh, the project is canceled.
It's gone.
They're doing it just
Why?
out of goodwill.
Oh, okay.
Just to the people who are looking forward to it, who had put time into it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, you get to play till April, and that's it.
Jeez.
Yeah, creative director David Eckelberry, speaking to Kotaku back in 2015, he was talking about, how can they make this game viable given that it's free to play? And they were trying to avoid sort of the shifty practices that make a lot of free to play games money.
Yeah.
He said, we need scale. PC gives us that scale element, but even with the core Xbox audience, we've got a lot to work with. We need millions, probably. But then the Fable series has always hit those numbers.
Yeah.
Is it safe to assume that a company can just play with a series, do whatever they want with it, and expect to get the same sales game after game?
No, I mean, if anything, you learned that they were just too late on this. I mean, now when you have all these MOBAs coming out, I mean, think about you have Battleborn, Battlecry, Paragon, Smite. That was a big craze, right? That happened over the last 3 years or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, there's this 4-player co-op, free to
with
play.
rotating heroes, it sounded like.
Yeah, and I think they were just late, and I think that the audience, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm a little older than you guys, so maybe I'm just the old fart who just is tired of Fable.
You are an old
I
fart.
have no idea at this point, but I think that I think they took a gamble. I don't actually criticize them for taking a gamble, but I don't think it paid off, and it's clear and it's showing, and that's probably why. Is Lionhead's being disbanded? It's gone.
Well, so that's the thing, is that they have a month to justify the fact that they want to close Lionhead.
What's the other studio that was working on that. Was it Press Play or?
Press Play was, I don't know if they were working on Fable Legends
They were
exactly.
working on another game.
But they were part of the sort of shuttering that's happening right now.
Got it.
Over
okay.
there, yeah.
Yeah. That was the, I just know that they may have taken one too many risks. They may have not had the player base. Like, when I was in game dev, when you make a game, you have to, especially in a beta, you have to get all those players to come in, and if they don't stick around, you don't offer anything unique. I imagine they were going to go with like cosmetic items to be more of like the pay structure, and that's how you get like returning people to come and spend money. But maybe it just wasn't happening.
Do you guys think the Fable series is done? And furthermore, can Microsoft risk having one less exclusive series under their belt?
Nothing's ever done, Peter.
No, yeah?
In 10 years, they'll come back and reboot this entire thing.
You wish.
I have a feeling that, that's kind of like the creator's mantra, right? Look at Hollywood, look at gaming. They're just going to reboot it like 10 years later.
But how often do things like this get canceled like so late in development when they had a fan base like people who really like Fable have been watching this game for years and hoping for it. And now Microsoft is basically saying, sorry, I don't know if they can really come back from this. It seems like that's sort of they dug a little bit of a ditch with their fans.
I can't really think of any other examples where this has happened before, really, and something's come back. So maybe you're right.
Did the game look promising? Like Legends? Like, what was the response of like that game as a whole?
So I was reading some previews this morning. People seem to enjoy sort of the asymmetrical aspect. So 4 people would play just like the heroes, right?
Yeah.
And then a fifth player would play the villain, sort of like a dungeon master, like in Dungeons and Dragons, gets to define like where traps are, where enemies are, and stuff like that. And people made it sound like, look, we've got the Fable dressing and environment, but then we have this new gameplay where you get to play, one of your friends gets to play a villain, a little bit like Evolve. In that regard.
I was going to say that it looks like they just followed the same path that Evolve did, and we're like, oh, crap.
Yeah, it's possible they got a lot of negative feedback from the beta, but I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, as someone who's only played like a little bit of the first one, I that would not be an incentive to go back. Like my incentive for a Fable game would be like, let me play catch up and see why people love the lore of it, the story of it. Like, so, you hear such praise for 2 and 1, like, I'd like to see that.
How did
in another form?
Sorry to interrupt. How did they released the original was released last year, like the HD remaster of Fable 1?
I think that's sort of like
did that do
edition.
well? Like the anniversary edition, did it do okay? I know I looked at it, it looked great, but I just wasn't sure if it was doing well.
I'm not quite sure. It seems to me that it's sort of like one of those timeless games that gets a bit of a facelift, right?
Yeah.
But people still, I think, are kind of burned from 3, especially like talking to you. It sounds like the series at that point lost relevance.
Yeah, I just think that, it was weird because it had, I can see what they were trying to do with like adding more political themes and then you like kind of becoming king and defending your kingdom against invaders and stuff. And it just, 2 was just so good. It was just so good. And they were like, crap, what do we do? Like, do we just expand upon that? I don't know. You kind of see that, right, with like existing games. How iterative is Zelda, really? It's kind of the same story. Like there obviously are some different games, like Wind Waker and Skyward Sword are a little different. They look different, but for the most part, that formula is still there, right? Maybe Fable went too far. I just don't know. I just remember 2 was amazing because they really expanded upon 1. They perfected everything. Perfected. I would say they perfected everything from Fable 1. Yeah, you could, everything you did affected your character. You could drink and eat pies and just get fat, or you could eat celery and get really thin.
Just like real life.
Yeah, it's exactly real, You could marry people. You had same-sex marriage. You could fuck a hooker,
That's some language.
Yeah.
Hold the phone.
So, I'm sure they're laughing back there right now. But anyways, the whole thing, and if you didn't wear a condom, you could get a disease. Or get sterile.
Wait, there were condoms?
There were condoms in Fable 2.
Rabbit skin?
I don't know about that. I just know that if you didn't wear one and you had sex with a prostitute, chances are you would have gotten like an STD, or you could get sterile, or you could get her knocked up and then you have a kid, and the kid could die, and there's all this weird stuff that happened. It was so cool.
Again, just like real life.
Exactly.
So cool. You can get diseases.
And then if you were evil, you would grow horns. I remember that too. You would,
I do remember hearing that.
And then your dog would actually, remember the dog? That was the best part about Fable 2, the dog.
This is the second time you talked about it, so it must be
The dog is great. Yeah, because if you're a good character, the dog will it'll turn into a golden retriever. But if you're kind of corrupt and bad, it just turns black. And it like a flat coat terrier or something like that. It's weird. And then I think there were even some DLC expansions where you could actually change the kind of dog you had to a bloodhound or a Dalmatian or a husky or something. So that I remember all that. I remember 3 not liking it all because it was
No
just,
dogs.
I don't
Did it have a
remember
dog?
if it had a dog. I just remember not liking it because it wasn't as fun, and there were so many. You were ruling a kingdom. I could see where they were trying to go, but at the same time, I felt that there was a lack of. I think they just lost their way at some point, and it was almost kind of like you were managing a kingdom, and then it got so real. You're just like, ugh, I just like taxes and people yelling at me, and ugh, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah, they seem like significantly different games. And I guess that's where my opinion, having not really delved into these, but what's the game I would look forward to? I don't know. It sounds like two, but yeah, I mean, like a MOBA, Fable MOBA. That sounds like a completely different game. Yeah, as you said, just like pulling the name.
I mean, how experimental do you get? I mean, before you start taking chances, it's kind of. It's hard, right? Because you want to bring new fans into the fray, right? But then you want to also please the existing ones you have. I don't know if and that might have been why they had problems.
Well, you see a game like Halo Wars, which people who played it seem to really like it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't reach the
Right.
same sales as regular Halo.
No.
Right.
But this is a free-to-play game, so maybe were there transactions during the beta? I doubt it, right?
I doubt it.
Yeah, so...
Well, either way, it is sad for fans of the series that the game is canceled, and unfortunately for Lionhead Studios employees, they might be losing jobs. So not to make light of the situation, it sucks. And if you're looking forward to Fable Legends, let us know in the comments below, and if you have any great memories, share those as well. All right, guys, before we start talking about Tim Sweeney at Epic, casting shade on Microsoft, we've got the Vive in the office. We had it on the last episode. Last Friday, we were here late, a little drunk. You were playing. Didn't matter. You were playing this little game called Final Approach that I want to talk about. And Ty, I think you played it as well.
I'm just glad you named it right.
What did I keep calling it?
Flight control.
Flight control.
Flight
It is
landing
flight
strip.
control.
So Final Approach, I'm just going to give this a cursory description. Yeah. You play God wearing a glove that was made in the Tron universe, and you tell helicopters and planes where to go? That's all I know.
Yeah.
And you extinguish them when they catch on fire.
All right, fill me in. Why is this so fun? And why does it need VR?
It's again, I was probably one of the biggest VR skeptics until we got this thing in the office.
Yeah.
And this is obviously one of the demos we played, but when you're in there, it is just I think this is Mary trying to screw with the poor pedestrians that live in the city. But
That's Josh.
Or Josh, whatever. Oh, I didn't
They
see,
look so
I didn't
similar.
see the lower third. But the thing is, it's. Hello. I'm going to talk into the microphone. You can tell this is my first rodeo. I'm normally behind the scenes. Mary just had a heart attack over there. But it's just you feel like you're Godzilla. You don't feel like you're God. I feel like you feel like you're just this giant, thing walking, especially in the city one. But when you're in the, you have like an ocean level where you're like just in it. It's as simple as telling helicopters and planes where to land, performing tasks. If someone catches on fire, you have to extinguish them with.
I'm going to stop you. This sounds incredibly boring.
Yeah. What?
Listen, I might just be crazy.
No, I mean,
No,
what is the making the plane land or making it crash, right? Those are really simple experiences. Like, how does the overall thing make you feel?
So what I will say is, having tried out the Oculus Rift, having tried out, I think I was the only one actually I tried out. But regardless, you put this thing on, and this is the first standing VR thing I've ever done, and I'm a little skeptical because with what was the DK2 we had in the office? Yeah. I don't know, that thing. I could see the pixels. Granted, I'm just sitting in a chair. It was enjoyable. This, however, you're standing and you're moving around. Now, no, hear me out. I'm sitting in a chair for the DK2, and all I have a controller in my hand. It hurts your head basically to grasp. Okay, I can look with my left or look with my head, but my right stick is still ingrained with other movement and tasks. This, however, is full VR. And what I will say about this one that the resolution is top notch. I don't notice any pixels. The precision is what really got me stoked. And as you said, kind of like a Tron, you have this armband, right? I feel like I'm Tony Stark, and it's perfect. It's like a palette, and everything is so precise that you could do it forever. I don't know. There's no motion sickness involved. That was a big complaint with VR. The precision was what took me away. And you'll have a plane fly or direct a plane to land, right? And then you'll forget about it, and then you hear in your right speaker zzz, and you look to your right, and there's a plane in your face flying right past your eyes. Like, it is wild.
Look at those water physics, people. Look at that. Look how amazing that is.
It's always so hard to communicate what makes a VR experience great because it's just not the same as looking at it on the screen. Like, you really have to feel that sense of presence.
Yeah.
And this is our dilemma, right? I mean, like, how do you explain this to somebody? How do you show it to somebody? Like, that clip right there with Josh messing around in the room with the Vive on it's not indicative of what that experience is really like.
No.
At all, whatsoever. Like, the only way to tell you about it is just that you have to experience it yourself.
Yeah.
It's like love. No one can tell you you're in love, Peter.
Yeah, Valve and Oculus and anyone else like Sony who's experimenting with VR has a really tough road ahead of them because they've got to get this stuff into people's hands. Maybe it's going to be word of mouth that does it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, look at a real aircraft simulator there.
Yeah.
Hose it down, pilot.
I mean, that game may look boring as hell. I mean, if you just watch it on this video, on this stream, but when you play it, it's hard to describe. It feels really good, especially those other demos that we had too. It felt great.
So. Oh, there's so many to talk about, and we are actually getting our final Oculus Rift pretty soon. The embargo for that lifts the 28th, and then we're going to start having a whole mess of VR coverage, and it's going to be interesting to see how we do it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, real quick, on the PlayStation VR? Do you think that thing's actually going to come in under $500 or not?
Ooh, I think right now the guess is that they are going to try to hit 500 because they want to go beneath Oculus.
It won't be below that.
But that's the thing though, is that Sony isn't just selling the headset. They have to sell the little box that's connected to it that does the extra processing because the PS4 isn't doing all of it.
No.
So you add that cost in, who knows? But Sony as a console manufacturer is known for selling hardware at a loss to get people in to buy the software.
Yeah.
And the question is, can that model work for this, given that people already need to own a PlayStation 4? So this is a whole other purchase.
So they have the installed base, which is good.
That helps, but
you're asking someone to drop another 500 bones on something that,
I only have so many bones, Sony.
That's it. Said it from Peter himself.
And it's the library, right? Like, that's the selling point. Like, what's the Vive going for now?
800.
The Vive is 800, and that comes with 2 controllers, which the Rift does not. The Rift, I think, comes with an Xbox One controller, 360 controller.
And I haven't tried the newest version of the Oculus, but that Vive was probably the best one I've tried to date in terms of PlayStation VR or the Morpheus or whatever it was called when I tried it, and then Oculus and this. That was great, but you need a space for that place too. Like, we have like this, studio.
Right, that's big.
But we also live in San Francisco, and it's like, how big are apartments here? We all know it's not necessarily the best experience, but you need the room.
You need the room. And there were a couple of issues that were frustrating, right? Like, you have this cord, like Neo in the Matrix, just like sticking out of your head. Like, unfortunately, you're going to be, losing track of where you are as far as your rotation is. So, like, if you get tangled, basically is what I'm trying to say.
Leash.
Yeah. And I guess I would say, like, man, it would be probably really imperative to like have this thing attached to the ceiling, or maybe they'll even have like an adapter or something like that, like some kind of like bungee system.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see this thing being like, like the mic at like a fight club. Like, ladies and gentlemen, strap in. Like, that could work.
If Josh was not here, like guiding me and help assisting me with that thing, I would have been hitting walls, knocking over his sailboat, all this other crap. I mean, it would have been bad.
Well, the interesting thing about the Vive, and I don't know if we had it activated at that time, but it has a camera that lets you see things in your environment.
It does, which is great. Well, you can make a wall. You can make like this like grid wall where it says you can actually outline your room and be like, all right, if I get to this edge, that means there is a object right in front of me.
It will also sense like just any object in the room.
Oh, it does?
You don't have to map out. Yeah, like I was at a demo once where they told me to sit down, and I was like, how the hell am I going to sit down there? Like, look down. And I looked down, and I could see the outline of the chair.
So you knew you were safe.
So I was able to sit down in VR while I was still in the experience that I was doing.
Cool.
There was just like a little bit of a ghostly image, which helped. Yeah, the dawn of VR is upon us. Are you guys planning on buying a VR headset? Do you have the money in the VR dungeon?
Everyone has the money. They're just loaded. Everybody.
Oh, Ty.
I don't know how the hell people are going to buy these things. I'm still skeptical that they're going to sell that well.
Well, think about it and let us know in the comments below if you're going to pick this stuff up. We're pretty lucky we get them in, but man, I could not afford this on my own.
No.
$800.
$800.
Dude, it's the library, man.
And then you need the computer to run the damn thing.
Yeah.
Like, we have like a 980 in that thing, and it's a beefy machine.
Yeah.
We're talking like $2,000 plus to run that thing.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
All right. Well, earlier this week, Tim Sweeney, one of the founders of Epic Games, came out to criticize Microsoft. He wrote like a lengthy feature talking about the Microsoft Windows platform. It's this new sort of an API, a software development tool they're using to allow developers to make games for all Windows devices with just one set of code.
Yeah.
Ports it automatically. Tim Sweeney's concern is like, okay, what that's doing, because Microsoft is known for phasing out support for stuff. If Microsoft takes this approach, phases out the old sort of Wild West Win32 application system where people could just make anything for any version of Windows. You could download it from the website and play it. If they get rid of that and it's just this UWP, this United Windows Platform, developers and gamers are going to be sort of taken out of the equation. They're going to have to go through Microsoft for everything. So Ty, I know that you kind of understand a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I don't know if he makes some interesting points, and I understand that coming from his side why he's a little scared right now and why he's concerned. But I don't necessarily know. I think there's always going to be that side load option in Windows 10. I'm almost positive that you can set a security parameter that says I can install anything.
You can do that right now.
Yes.
So, but what happened with Windows 8 is Microsoft eventually made that part of only the Enterprise Edition of Windows.
Okay.
So there is a chance
maybe
they could
that's
take
why
it
they're
out.
concerned. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is tough, right? I can see both sides of the argument here. I think Microsoft's smart. I mean, they're at the stage now where I believe, like, if you look at other operating systems, like Mac, they're growing. Their install base is growing. Windows is shrinking, it's not as, still the dominant force, right? Especially with gaming, but, and I guess, and enterprise, but for the most part, they are losing numbers and they need to, the PC, if you ask my parents and my grandmother, it's a damn mess and it drives them nuts.
Call her up. Let's do it on live.
We should, right? Put her up now. My 91-year-old grandma hates this stuff. But no, it's interesting because you said it yourself with the Win32 API, it's been very open, yes, but the problem is applications can, they might request access from other applications. It might be digging into your hard drive. At no point I just feel at no point when you change your OS, should things just break.
Right.
And not work. Or when you install a program, it causes another program to break and work. This is why things like Xbox One, PS4, the iPhone, iPads, any closed ecosystem is popular because it's made for 90% of the people 90% of the time, right?
Yeah. But if you look at the sort of control Microsoft is trying to have over everything, that puts
it's alarming.
Well, because developers now can put out any app they want, right? On Windows, you can download it, install it. Yeah. Through this UWP, Microsoft has to approve of everything, right? And we've seen how that works on the Apple App Store, where certain things get denied for sometimes just cold systematic reasons.
Yeah.
It's sort of putting, at least this is my opinion, it's putting these sort of lock and key on things that have forever just been open. And people have to be smart enough to navigate open waters. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure that think about it this way. This is a whole other platform that people have to consider on PC. We've already got Steam, which everyone loves.
Yes.
And you've got Uplay. And you've got Origin. Is Origin still a thing, right?
Origin is still a thing.
Didn't they try to rebrand it? The thing is we don't need a whole other one.
Well, that's the appeal of a PC, right?
Exactly.
Is the open
it,
source?
Is
yeah,
it,
that's why I have it.
Okay, I'm talking to the average person though.
Right.
I think to us, I agree with you guys 100%. I think we want to get there was I think in Sweeney's article there was something he talked about how there's this element of danger and excitement that you feel when you have a PC and it just
don't open that
and something just works, right? And you're just that worked. I can't believe I got that to work, And part of the reason why a lot of the developers are worried is because you look at Rise of the Tomb Raider on Windows 10, that was a mess. That game didn't even let you run full screen. It was a windowed full screen, didn't take full advantage of the video card. There were some other weird SLI problems with that game. But you download it on Steam, it works perfectly, right?
Yeah.
So I get all that, but at the same time, it's how big is the audience like us that uses PCs to game and do all this other weird shit? How big are we compared to the general enterprise type audience, creative audience that just wants a goddamn computer to work? properly.
Right, but
Yeah.
I think it was you that was telling me that your computer wanted to update to Windows 10.
That pissed me off.
And you had left auto update on, to be fair.
Yes.
But the problem is if
That really pissed me off.
If Microsoft does this, right, like a game
Yeah.
like Gears of War Ultimate Edition,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it was a
only
mess.
available on Windows 10 with DirectX 12, which presented a bunch of problems for people.
Yeah, it was
Again, I'm not like defending or supporting the decision. I can understand why they're doing it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm coming from. Like I agree. Yeah, it made me really mad when Windows 10 was about to install automatically, and I was like, "What the hell?" And then, by the way, it also downloaded the damn thing to my computer in a hidden drive that I couldn't delete. And then when I did delete it, it reinstalled it again or downloaded it again. So yeah, there's some shady shit going on there, and it made me mad. But the thing is like how often they're pushing so aggressively with this, right? They want everyone to adopt Windows 10, and they're going to force you to do it. You know, like I feel like they're kind of taking some cues from Apple, but they're just getting a lot more shit for it. And it's it's interesting.
Is there concern that they'll be taking a cut from?
They are taking a cut.
They are, or like what's
Well,
that
I mean, yeah,
cut?
It's the
Anything
same
That's-
30-70%. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Maybe.
the same thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I think so.
I don't know. Do you know for sure?
I'm almost positive it's 30%.
You swear?
I say this with absolutely no conviction whatsoever. But I think their store, they are taking a cut.
Yeah, yeah. It would make sense that they would.
But they are allowing you to download UWP certified applications from other sources.
Right.
Like Phil Spencer said that. Like they are allowing you to do that. So I understand why everyone's kind of freaking out. I just think the jury's still out. I don't think people should just freak out for no apparent reason yet without listening to all the facts and hearing what's going on. Because I would love to make the PC gaming experience better,
Right.
like just smoother. And I mean, we do all of our work in PC, like with Adobe Creative Cloud and like all these other applications that we use. You know, like I need them to work, and when they don't work and shit just breaks, it is very frustrating.
Well, especially with Adobe, I mean, like that almost presents its own issue because in the past you could just have those apps and not have to worry about connecting to the cloud to make sure your license was good. Now you have to
now
connect it all the time. I mean, it's a sign of things changing for the worse.
Yeah, it's like a nightmare now when like something updates in Adobe Creative Cloud and then like half your shit doesn't work. So I mean, it would be great to have some sort of uniformity there, but at the same time, I understand why some gamers are antsy.
Yeah.
I get it.
Is this a concern? I mean, I know Gears is obviously a Microsoft exclusive. So is that just the main concern? Is that like all exclusive, say Halo down the road wants to make its way to PC, it will have to go through the system, is basically what the idea is.
Well, so the idea is that if Microsoft takes away the ability to sideload apps into UWP or the ability to release downloadable exe files based on the old Win32 method, then everyone will have to go through UWP and all those constraints.
Everyone.
They might not have to sell it through that store.
They
but
won't have to do that, at least not yet.
Okay.
They won't have to do it. Right, no, but that's the concern, right? That's
Yeah.
where it's all coming from. And so if they have to do that, sure, they could still sell the game through Steam, but they would have to conform to the tools and the policies that are then inherent in being part of UWP.
And that may not be such a horrible thing if you sell through a third-party store, but then at least you have that UWP certification that says, hey, this app is just going to install. It's not going to go fishing through your shit. It's not going to look for anything else. It's not going to install anything nefarious that's going to screw up something else. It's legit because we cert it. We cert it.
Yeah.
And that part, actually, I like. I might be getting crucified by a bunch of PC gamers.
I'm
right
sure
now.
you are, yeah.
But I mean, I like that part of it. But at the same time, I understand, it's also a giant corporation. They want to make money, and I get all that. So I get the concerns. I just think that the jury's still out.
All right. Well, are you guys worried about the future of Windows gaming? Why do you love gaming on PC in the first place? I know for me, it was always downloading those incredibly... I don't even know where I'm going with this. Never mind. PC gaming, the Wild West might be on its way out. No, it's going to get inappropriate. But all right, gentlemen, this has been the episode of The Lobby. I thank you for letting me host it, and thank you for joining me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. This is my first time in this room.
Oh my goodness. No, it's not.
Ever.
I'm assuming you defined job hosting. I just stumbled upon you in the middle of the show.
I want to thank Eric Tay, Mary Kish, and Josh Shaw in the back, also Richard Lee in the front. Josh Shaw, it is his last day at GameSpot.
I want Josh Shaw to come in here right now.
I want him to come in and do a little dance. I don't think he will. Josh, will you come in?
I'm not going to stop talking until you come in here.
No.
And I'm going to tell people.
Josh isn't here.
He's not here.
He's checked
He's
out.
already checked
He's
out.
gone.
Kicked him out of the building.
They already kicked him out.
He's gone. He's gone.
What
I will miss him.
But before, on a different note, Eric Tay and I will be streaming some more Division
Oh yeah, high level play, yeah.
right after this. So 3:30-ish, you can see some high-level stuff. Eric Tay and I played, I played till 3 a.m. and almost passed out. And I have to say, my fondest, Eric Tay, unbeknownst to most people, I think, that man can grind. He got 2 hours of sleep last night.
I woke up at 4:30 to go run, and he was still playing that fucking game.
I don't understand it. Like, my last visual is like, I have to go to bed because I'm falling asleep.
He's gone,
And I'm
man.
like
It's crazy.
watching Eric run down the street of New York City, just, Eric, good luck. He played till 5 a.m. He's level 26. I'm 20. So what you will be seeing is basically some sort of high-level play of me being carried by Eric Tay. So it could be a very interesting stream.
Tay and Luke games, man.
I know.
He likes that stuff.
He loves it.
He does.
He does.
All right, so make sure to join us next week, everyone. We will be back at Tuesday at 2 p.m. for another episode of The Lobby. And please, if you're listening on iTunes, leave us some comments. Let us know what you like, what you don't. Let us know if you think I should be hosting the show instead of Danny. Probably not, but I'd appreciate the feedback.
Okay, Mary's laughing.
Hey, fair enough.
Hey, all right.
Hey, all right.
All right, guys. Take it easy.